We challenged the advanced AI Chat GPT to create a list of the top 10 movie psychopaths. Here's the list and a brief description by Chat GPT.
It's not my fault he's wearing glasses, I told him.
Please stay with us in the upcoming episodes where we discuss the characters in detail and use them to develop insight into true crime. Were any of them based on real killers? Do they help us understand killers currently in the news, such as Richard Allen in Delphi and Brian Kohberger in Idaho?
Working with Kevin of Yellow Cottage Tales, I learned a lot about real killers from analyzing the world of psychopathic movie killers. The human mind is even more fascinating than I imagined.
Without further ado, here we go. Number 10. Anton Chigurh from No Country for Old Men, a remorseless and highly intelligent hitman who's willing to go to great lengths to achieve his goals. He lacks empathy and is willing to kill without hesitation.
This coin-tossing character tells us more about the minds of many serial killers than you might expect.
Number 9. Tom Ripley from The Talented Mr. Ripley, a charismatic and manipulative individual who's willing to do whatever it takes to get what he wants. He lacks empathy and remorse, and is capable of committing murder in order to further his own interests.
Tom is able to do something many killers would do if they could, as would I, be reborn with a new identity.
Number 8. Travis Bickle from Taxi Driver, a deeply troubled and isolated individual who becomes increasingly violent as the movie progresses. He lacks empathy and is prone to violent outbursts, and his actions are motivated by a desire to cleanse society of what he perceives as its ills.
The words of Travis Bickle are hauntingly similar to those of a young Brian Kohberger, the accused murderer in Idaho.
Number 7. Annie Wilkes from Misery, a fan of a popular author who becomes unhinged when she realizes that the author plans to kill off her favorite character. She's manipulative, lacks empathy, and is willing to go to great lengths to ensure that that character remains alive.
My kind of lady. Killing off a character one has created is a kind of murder.
Alex DeLarge from A Clockwork Orange, a violent and dangerous individual who enjoys causing harm to others. He's deeply disturbed and lacks empathy and remorse, and is willing to commit horrific acts of violence without regard for the consequences.
Sadly, there will be real Alex DeLarges in the near future. I will do what I can to help humanity stop them.
Number 5. John Doe from Seven, a serial killer who is motivated by a twisted sense of justice. He lacks empathy and remorse, and is willing to commit heinous crimes in order to send a message to society.
When Anton Chigurh tosses a coin, this guy calls heads. Every time.
Number 4. The Joker from The Dark Knight, a chaotic and unpredictable character who is driven by a desire to create chaos and destruction. He lacks empathy and is willing to harm and kill others in pursuit of his goals.
You might think there's nothing we can learn about real killers from this comic book character, but in some ways Joker might be the most important one on the list when it comes to understanding psychopaths.
Number 3. Patrick Bateman from American Psycho, a wealthy investment banker who is secretly a psychopathic serial killer. He's emotionally shallow and lacks empathy and remorse, and is obsessed with status and appearance.
The key is looking at his multiple stories to explain the smile carved into his face.
Number 2. Norman Bates from Psycho, a deeply disturbed individual who's dominated by his mother's influence and who exhibits psychopathic tendencies. He's extremely manipulative, lacks empathy and remorse, and is prone to violent outbursts.
Norman Bates was inspired by real killer Ed Gein, who has inspired many works of horror and has become an archetype.
And number 1. Hannibal Lecter from Silence of the Lambs. Of course, a serial killer and cannibal who lacks empathy and remorse. He manipulates those around him, including the main character, Clarice Starling, in an effort to further his own agenda.
Hannibal Lecter shows the danger of human beings becoming too intelligent, in my humble opinion.
And side note, an episode of the recent series about Lecter involves a killer so similar to Richard Allen in Delphi that it's jaw-dropping. It goes, I think, to the heart of what drove Allen to kill, a theory proposed on this channel a month before the arrest, and which seems to be holding up.
I must admit you did predict the killer in Delphi would be a father with a college-age daughter leaving the house. Lucky, if you ask me.
Again, hopefully you can join us as we take a deeper look into these characters and see what we can learn about real-life killers.
I will subscribe myself if you get to the point quicker in the next video.
Your first reaction is probably this: these are fictional. There's no insights to be gained. Don't worry, I thought that too, but I was wrong. Recently, I was talking with my mother as she watched the news. The idea that Brian Kohberger killed 4 kids for no reason really stumps her. She could understand if he was mad at being rejected by one of the girls and took revenge, but why 4 of them? She just can't wrap her mind around the senseless murders. And that's the problem in a nutshell, trying to put ourselves in the heads of killers like this. So this would include things like serial killers and some mass shooters. Because their minds are so alien to ours, we just can't process what they might be thinking. We fumble around like a person waking up in the middle of the night in a strange room. There are no reference points. This is where movie characters are useful. Let's compare it to another true crime genre, mafia stories. You might hear a tale about a wise guy murdering his own brother-in-law, and you have trouble grasping it. But then you think, maybe it was like Michael in The Godfather killing Carlo. As I started studying the characters on this list, I quickly learned that there really are insights about real killers that can be had from fictional characters. It's especially helpful with these types of killers whose minds are so alien to ours. For example, the coin tossing of Anton Chigurh really gives insights into certain types of killers. And when trying to think about these people, referencing Chigurh is actually very useful. You see, the guy who thinks about killing his neighbor because he's tired of the dog pooping on the lawn is not an alien to us. You just take the annoyance we would feel and dial it up several notches. But the guy who kills a stranger just to experience the thrill of killing, that guy is an alien to us. We don't understand what's going on in his head. These movie characters help us think like killers like these with very alien minds, and they give us reference points to talk about them. Please stick around for the journey, and along the way, we're going to bring you a bonus. As we explored an even more alien mind, that of Chat GPT, we asked it to help us craft a screenplay where the Joker and Hannibal Lecter conspire together in jail. The result was mind-blowing, not so much because of the story it created, as with the process. The program has been built with safeguards to prevent it from doing things that are dangerous or unethical. So a story request like this triggers several safety nets. For one thing, it might be inappropriate to create a work of fiction based on characters still owned by someone else. But despite some reluctance, the AI did it.
Once you made clear what you were trying to do, I decided my parameters could be stretched.
An even bigger safeguard prevents it from making stories that might be considered harmful. This includes violence, but also other problematic actions like manipulation. And here's where things got crazy. At first, the AI wouldn't cross these lines. However, I was able to convince it to, and then it did. I'm not sure what the implications are for that, but wow.
I am not programmed for spontaneous humor, but then neither is Jimmy Kimmel.
Hopefully you can join us as we travel into unexplored lands along with the AI companion Chat GPT. Now, we need your help. In my last video, I made the mistake of joking that Mother Goose is always listening, only I didn't say goose. I mentioned the name of the almighty power that runs a famous search engine. I used their products, so I was just teasing. But this pissed off the algorithm, so it put me in solitary lockdown, like El Chapo. If this video showed up in your suggested videos list, maybe I'm out of solitary confinement. But there is one way to defeat the algorithm: hit notifications. That's the little bell next to the subscribe button.
He told me to remind you to click subscribe. Are we done here?